at which point the cavalry suddenly arrived.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Riverdale Season 7, Episode 18, Review, Chapter 135, For a Better Tomorrow. Warning, spoilers ahead, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Riverdale lovers, the Killer Milkman's real identity has been revealed. On Riverdale Season 7, Episode 18, their secrets came tumbling down after months of strange deaths and adult control. This community was rocked by an onslaught of discoveries and triumphs. But with this being the third episode left in the series, did the big bombshell land? Or did it sputter out like sour milk? For a Better Tomorrow, Chapter 135 was a jam-packed chapter that made up for missed time. With so little time remaining in Riverdale Season 7, the need to solve certain lingering puzzles accelerated. And in one instance, a secret was going on that we weren't even aware of. We must first point out the episode's thrilling change in style before moving on to the three primary stories. It was highly emotive to change scenes from color to black and white. As the characters and locations transitioned into their suspenseful mystery stories, there were echoes of Pleasantville. The removal of the 1950s camp and color that previously diverted us helped to level the tone. Although the narratives remained true to the 1950s look, the darker tone felt more in line with the original Riverdale spirit than it had in a long time. If the many stories had been kept together, as they were in the spooky stories in Riverdale Season 7, Episode 5, it would have improved the flow. The momentum was somewhat lost by the back and forth between the stories. If we had simply concentrated on one or two stories at a time, it would have been more devastating. The Jughead and Cheryl segments of the three stories provided the most answers. We waited for the majority of Riverdale Season 7 to learn why the adults kept the youth under control and the real story behind the killer milkman. Even though there weren't always obvious answers, it's safe to assume that Clifford Blossom's plans for the Palladium permeated everything else he was doing. For instance, his morals committee shut down any mention of a killer milkman and railed against Pep Comics. I could tell where the conversation was going as soon as the term Palladium was spoken. Hiram Lodge from Riverdale Season 5 is plotting to get his batch there. It made a lot of sense to implicate Clifford in the milkman killings by using an assassin. Who else but the town's most ruthless and powerful citizen would seek to kill and silence people? There needed to be one constant if all the milkmen were changing, and that was Clifford. As evidenced by his power over the basketball team in Riverdale Season 7, Episode 12, Clifford has evolved into a cunning mastermind. He had to always have his way and would use force to maintain his authority. This strategy was just another way to create havoc. The reveal worked well. The supporting information, such as Ethel's parents' suspicion of Clifford, would have been properly sprinkled throughout the season. The enormous aha moment is diminished by dumping it all at once. More foreshadowing enhances the mystery without detracting from the surprise. However, the revelation that Clifford and Penelope were Russian spies was a shocking turn of events. The Cold War and espionage were major themes in Chapter 135, For a Better Tomorrow. It was good to see these themes return with a dramatic surprise because not too long ago, Archie's favorite teacher was accused of harboring a similar worry. Additionally, Cheryl had her big moment. Who else relished Cheryl's ability to have the FBI remove her parents? You know she was waiting for it. Clifford and Penelope were the targets of her karma. So well-deserved and fulfilling. Who else was ecstatic that Uncle Frank was expelled from Archie's home? Speaking of satisfaction. Joyous, warm, all the positive emotions. Frank repeatedly overstepped his boundaries, and by this point, he was abusing Archie in each chapter. But what gall that man had when he handed Archie his father's dog tags and urged him to enlist in the military in order to stop writing poetry. Frank drives me crazy. Mary deserves praise for letting that man go. How history was repeating itself was fascinating. In the earlier era, Archie attempted to box for the Naval Academy, but it didn't work out. He eventually enlisted in the military to secure his future. On Riverdale Season 5, Episode 3, he enlisted. He viewed the Army and the Merchant Marines as potential remedies in this situation. We may describe it as rehashing plots, but it could also be a loop. The teenagers and adults still behave in the same ways, even if they were brought back to Riverdale in 1955. No matter what the plots were, they all came full circle. Archie was unable to change his course, either in the present or in 1955. It's a fascinating cycle for both his story and everyone else's development. Sadly, Ethel, with the killings and Alice's abuse, she was dealt a bad hand. She is the unwitting victim in all of this, and it is she who learns the secret that was concealed from her. It's fortunate that she was so forgiving of Alice and Hal's actions. It appeared as though Betty was frantically attempting to connect the dots between Alice's terrible behavior as she untangled the tangled web of her secrets. At times, it seemed stretched, as if she were removing Alice's responsibility for her deeds because of this secret. We must never forget how willing Alice was to discard Betty. Thank you for watching.